Law and order, once the bedrock of American justice, has been twisted into something unrecognizable. What was meant to protect the people now shields those in power. And this week, Senator Patty Murray just exposed how deep that corruption goes inside the nation's top law enforcement agency. Her confrontation with Attorney General Pam Bondi didn't just rattle the room. It ripped the mask off a Justice Department that seems to have forgotten what justice even means. It began like any other oversight hearing. Routine questions, formal tone, the usual political dance. But then Murray broke from the script. Her voice calm, but her words carried weight. We are in a deeply alarming moment where law and order is being replaced by chaos and corruption, and really, whatever those in power want.
Do its job have eroded before our eyes. We have seen respected career officials who've been fired for doing their job. Thousands more are being pushed out with the year buyouts and the threat of mass firings, and entire divisions are being eliminated, and grants have been canceled illegally. So I have questions about how and why those decisions are being made, and importantly, whether you're adequately resourcing DOJ to do its job. But before I turn to my questions, I do want to raise my alarm about the troubling pattern of trampling basic rights. Detainees, including U.S. citizens, being shipped overseas without any due process. Elected officials are detained for conducting oversight, and a U.S. senator gets tackled to the ground for asking questions at a press conference. This is not the country I know or the values I believe in, and I hope that colleagues on both sides of the aisle will agree with that. Now, to the questions. Yesterday, and I know that Senator Van Hollen raised this issue, a former DOJ attorney filed a protected whistleblower complaint accusing Deputy AG Emil Bove and senior DOJ leadership of defying court orders, including through, quote, lack of candor, deliberate delay, and disinformation, unquote. The complaint also accuses this administration of firing the whistleblower for, quote, telling the truth to the court. These allegations are deeply concerning. Now, I know you said that you can't discuss the case, but can you confirm that you agree that this administration should follow court orders?
We will follow court orders, Senator. The entire administration will follow court orders. The problem arises in the district courts. All these district courts throughout the country are tying our hands. But here's how we will follow them when we get to the United Supreme Court.
I need to ask
we're winning.
A number of questions.
And so, yes,
I know
we're following the orders of the court.
Let me ask my questions. Can you confirm you will not allow any conduct like what is alleged to continue at the DOJ?
I'm not going to talk about anything that's alleged. What I will talk about with you, hold on, you asked me a question and I get to answer it. What you asked me, alleged conduct that's part of a pending whistleblower lawsuit that was filed on the eve prior to Emil Bove's hearing today.
I'm not asking about that
suspicious. Hold on, let me keep going. I would run through a wall for Emil Bove and Todd Blanche.
Like to continue with my questions. I have very limited time. Thank you. I just want you to confirm for this you will not allow conduct like that at the DOJ. Yes or no?
I will always support and defend Emil Bove, and I will defend Todd Blanche. They are two of the finest people I know and two of the ethical people I know.
I was asking about the conduct. Let me keep going here. Now, in April, DOJ abruptly terminated over 300 public safety grants that had already gone through a very rigorous and fair and apolitical application process with no explanation. This is funding to investigate and prosecute drug trafficking, to support foster care kids who experienced abuse or neglect, to expand access to forensic exams to prosecute violent crimes like sexual assault. These really senseless cancellations have already forced public safety organizations to cut employees and services. So I want to ask you, when you cut off the community-based violence intervention and prevention initiative funding, were you aware it is used to prevent and reduce violent crime?
Yeah, Senator, you weren't here for that, so I'm going to have to repeat myself. We have cut grants. I think we've cut 6%. But if we have cut a grant that you feel should not be cut, please reach out to me. I will personally look at it. We've turned multiple grants back on.
Okay.
We have an appeal process, but if you want to come to me directly, I would be happy to sit down with you and look at that and help you.
I'm happy. I appreciate
Again, we're doing everything we can.
Okay, but let me just ask you, when you cut off the Expanding Access to Sexual Assault Forensic Examination grant, were you aware that that grant helps our authorities prosecute rape and sexual assault?
I have no idea about that specific grant you're talking about. That's why I said, if you want to come sit down with me, I would never cut a grant intentionally that has anything to
those
do.
Recipients on the other end across the country.
Can you give me the details of that grant?
I can absolutely do that, and my staff will get that to you, but those are two critical ones that I just wanted to ask you about today.
Again, we've turned many grants back on, and we'll continue to. If you want to call me, and we can discuss them with you.
Okay, in your budget request, you propose consolidating the Office on Violence Against Women into the Office of Justice Programs. In 2002, Congress actually codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office to implement the Violence Against Women Act. We did that to make sure that violent crimes against women receive the necessary attention, expertise, and resources, and to give the office a strong, independent voice within the Justice Department and federal government. Now your department wants to fade that into the OJP, which violates the intent of the law that we passed. It makes grant programs less effective, and it places a lot more barriers for victims and services they need. And I see that you're cutting the office's resources by about a third. So will you commit to us, the Appropriations Committee, to follow the law and maintain OVW as a separate grant entity?
I will follow the law, but I will not keep that as a separate grant entity. You and I can disagree all day long on what the law is.
Well,
that's being consolidated into the Office of Justice Programs. I'm not going to cut, let me answer, I'm not going to cut anything that's going to hurt violence against
not
women.
My question.
It will eliminate
I'm asking, just for your information, Attorney General, in 2002, we codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office. So that you need to go back and take a look at that. I know my time is out, but I thank you very much for the time.
The chamber fell silent. Because this wasn't hyperbole, it was the uncomfortable truth. She went on to describe a department losing its independence, its integrity, and its moral compass. Respected career officials fired for doing their jobs. Entire divisions dismantled. Public safety grants cut without warning. A justice system slowly suffocating under political pressure. And then, she brought up something even more disturbing. A whistleblower who said that senior officials at the Department of Justice had defied court orders and punished those who refused to lie about it. Murray reminded everyone that Senator Chris Van Hollen had raised the same issue the day before. This wasn't an isolated rumor. It was part of a larger, growing pattern. The whistleblower's complaint accused Deputy Attorney General Amal Bove and other senior leaders of deliberate delay, lack of candor, and disinformation. In plain language, lying to the courts. And when that attorney tried to tell the truth, they were fired. That's not just unethical. It's an assault on the rule of law itself. S.O. Murray did what every American wanted her to do. She asked Bondi, point blank, "Can you confirm you will not allow any conduct like that at the DOJ?" Bondi's response was jaw-dropping. Instead of promising to uphold justice, she said, "I will always support and defend Amal Bove and Todd Blanche. They are two of the finest people I know." That was the moment the mask slipped. No defense of the law. No reassurance that this kind of corruption wouldn't happen again. Just loyalty to people, not principles. Bondi even said she would run through a wall for them. Those words may have sounded loyal, but they revealed something chilling. The top law enforcement officer in the country wasn't defending justice. She was defending her friends. Murray's face said it all. She tried to continue, but the damage was done. The world had just watched the nation's chief prosecutor admit that personal loyalty came before accountability. And yet, that was only the beginning. The senator shifted gears, moving from whistleblower retaliation to something equally shocking: how Bondi's Justice Department had been cutting critical public safety grants across the country. More than 300 of them, gone overnight. These weren't obscure programs. They funded investigations into drug trafficking, supported foster care systems, provided forensic exams for sexual assault survivors, and helped prosecute violent crimes. These programs saved lives, and Bondi's department had quietly shut them down. Murray's tone hardened. She asked, "When you cut off the funding for sexual assault forensic exams, were you aware those grants helped prosecute rape and sexual assault?" Bondi paused, then admitted she had no idea about that specific grant. That silence that followed was deafening. The top law enforcement official in the nation didn't even know what the grants she cut were for. Murray pressed again, offering to share the details, but Bondi only repeated the same detached promise. If Murray wanted to discuss it later, her office could look into it. The indifference in her tone said everything. This wasn't about budget priorities. It was about neglect, about power so insulated it no longer recognized the damage it caused. Because when programs protecting women, children, and victims of violence get slashed without thought or reason, that's not oversight. That's abandonment. But Murray wasn't finished. She turned to the issue that might be the most revealing of all, Bondi's attempt to dismantle the Office on Violence Against Women. That office, created by Congress in 2002, was designed to stand alone, with its own funding and independence, ensuring that survivors of abuse would always have a voice within the Justice Department. Bondi's proposal? Merge it into the Office of Justice Programs, burying it under bureaucracy and cutting its budget by nearly a third. Murray reminded her that Congress had codified the office as a permanent, independent entity. By law, it couldn't be merged. By morality, it shouldn't. But Bondi's reply was stunning in its arrogance. "You and I can disagree all day long on what the law is." That line hit like a sledgehammer. The Attorney General of the United States claiming she could disagree on what the law says. It wasn't a misunderstanding, it was defiance. Bondi wasn't just consolidating offices, she was consolidating power. By folding that office into her department, she would silence the one branch of the DOJ that stood explicitly for victims. And that's when the bigger picture came into focus. This wasn't just about a few grants or a single whistleblower. It was about control. About reshaping a department built on independence into one built on obedience. Bondi's actions weren't random. They were part of a strategy to centralize power and suppress accountability, one quiet decision at a time. By the end of the hearing, it was clear this wasn't political theater. It was a moral showdown. Senator Murray, steady and relentless, represented every American who still believes in a justice system that serves the people. Bondi, dismissive and defensive, embodied a new reality, one where truth bends under pressure and power protects itself. Murray's words carried a warning that should echo far beyond that chamber. She reminded the country that when justice starts serving power, democracy doesn't die with a bang, it dies with silence. It dies every time a whistleblower is punished for honesty. It dies when a woman's safety is treated like a budget line. It dies when laws become suggestions for those who enforce them. And yet, through that grim reality, there was something powerful about Murray's stance. She didn't yell. She didn't grandstand. She held her ground with calm determination, exposing how far the system had drifted from its mission. Her quiet persistence became the loudest voice in the room. Every time Bondi tried to dodge, Murray brought the focus back to one principle: accountability. That's what the hearing became, a mirror held up to a system that had forgotten what it stands for. The takeaway wasn't just about one attorney general. It was about all of us, and how easily truth can disappear when no one demands it. The truth is, power doesn't need to scream to be dangerous. It only needs people to look away. And that's why this hearing mattered. Because Patty Murray refused to look away. She spoke for those who couldn't, for the whistleblowers silenced, for the victims whose protections were erased, and for every citizen wondering when the scales of justice started tipping toward politics. By the time the session ended, you could feel the weight of what had just happened. It wasn't just an oversight hearing anymore. It was a national wake-up call. Murray had done more than confront one official. She'd drawn a line in the sand. She made it clear that silence is complicity, and complicity is how democracies fall apart. This moment, captured on camera, will likely be remembered as one of the few times someone inside that building refused to let injustice hide behind bureaucracy. Because while Bondi offered excuses, Murray offered truth. And truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is the first step back toward accountability. So the next time you hear anyone talk about law and order, remember what this hearing revealed. It's not about law anymore. It's about control. It's not about order. It's about obedience. And the only thing standing in the way of total corruption are the people willing to call it out, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's dangerous. If we stop demanding accountability, we stop being a democracy. And as Senator Murray reminded the country, justice doesn't crumble overnight. It erodes quietly, piece by piece, while good people stay silent. But it doesn't have to end that way. The power to change it doesn't sit in any courtroom or committee room. It sits with us, with citizens who pay attention, who speak up, who refuse to normalize corruption. Because the moment we stop asking questions, that's when the system wins. So if you believe in truth, accountability, and a justice system that protects people, not power, don't stay silent. Keep watching, keep questioning, and keep shining light where others would rather keep it dark. And if this story opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this video to spread awareness. Because democracy doesn't die in one dramatic moment. It dies when we stop caring. Let's make sure that never happens.